Is Blue Eyes still on top post-Maliss? Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're taking a look at Blue Eyes, and more specifically post-Maliss and post-Banlist and stuff like that. And yeah, this is more kind of an analysis of where it kind of sits in the metagame, and how playable it still is. Specifically with the presence of Maliss being as basically omnipresent as it is, how does Blue Eyes stack up? So here is the list. It's pretty simple. It's still a 42 card list. You could cut this down to 40 as well by cutting out things like, I don't know, maybe some Fuas or something else along those lines. But I do think that Fua is still very good in this list overall. So there's that. We're going to do the quick card by card, starting off 2 Blue Eyes. You still need 2. It's very nice to have the second one, especially with the Lordly Load and stuff like that. Getting a second one is very useful. We're also playing, of course, the 2 Sage as well as the 2 Maiden. That's it. And then, of course, the 3 Wishes as well for extra consistency. Then we are playing 3 targets for the Wishes in particular, so that every single one of our Wishes is live, and because they're not bad to draw by themselves as well. And there's a lot of times where, like, being able to set Majesty as well off of something like a True Light to play around Maxi or draw or Fua or something like that is pretty nice as well. But we are playing the Bingo Machine Go, the Roar, as well as Majesty. Yes, Bingo Machine Go is kind of a necessary card now. It's just an additional target off of the Wishes. It's not too necessary. You could play something else as well, or you could just play the 2 targets. But for the most part, I did find this to be a fairly useful card. It never felt bad to have, for the most part. As for the rest of the cards, we're also just playing the 1 Mausoleum in order to search it off of the Link 1, and then the 1 True Light. And that's it for the Blue Eyes cards. Then, of course, we're playing the Primite cards. We're maxing out on 3 Ether Barrel, as well as 3 Lordly Load, or Ether Barrel. And then, of course, the 1 Drill Beam. You could play more. I just think the 1 is necessary. It's also not nearly as good against Maliss as some other decks, due to the way that Drill Beam specifically works, where it negates and then banishes, instead of banishing and negating. So, there's that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Primate cards. As for the hand traps, it's still pretty simple. The 3 Veiler, the 3 Purge are pretty standard in these lists, as well as the 2 Maxi and the 2 Ash Blossoms, as well as 2 Called By. But we're also playing additional cards here. Like, we have a ton of hand traps in here. We're also playing 3 Fua Loss, as well as 3 Lancia for Maliss in particular. Lancia is not exactly, like, the greatest, and neither is Fua Loss, but against Maliss, they're pretty good, and they kind of can just end into turn skips. That being said, if a Maliss player is good, they can absolutely play under Fua Loss. So, there's that. That being said, we're also playing 2 Nibirus in order to punish a potential extender, someone who plays under Nibiru, or not Nibiru, Maxi or Fua Loss or something like that. So there's that. You could also cut this to 1 very easily, as well as, like, cutting down a Fua Loss and play a nice even 40. You could even cut out a Lancia, but I have felt that Lancia is pretty good for 2 reasons. 1, because it allows you to, like, stop Bestials as well, so if the opponent tries to, like, Bestial you on their turn or something like that, you can do that, as well as it stops, of course, Maliss, which is pretty nice. So there's a bunch of other things as well, like Called By and Cross Out and such like that, where Lancia comes up. So there's a lot of reasons to play Lancia overall in this deck in particular, so it's pretty nice. As for the extra deck, it's pretty unique. It's not exactly standard. I'm not playing Crimson because, for the most part, I'm expecting to get interrupted via hand traps. If I don't get interrupted via hand traps, I probably have a good enough board anyway, because I still have the ability to make a pretty substantial board with a lot of interactions. So, for the most part, I don't think that playing Crimson is worth it. So instead, we're playing more consistency cards. It's consistent cards. We're playing 2 Tyrant Dragon. I never had the second one come up. No, that's not true. It did. It did come up a few times. So it's pretty nice. But you can fusion summon it off of the Roar, which is pretty good. We're also playing, of course, the 1 Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, which is pretty nice as a target for the Wishes. And that is it for the fusions. We're also playing the 2 Spirit Dragon. Most of the time you're just making 1. Sometimes you make 2. Most of the time you just want the 1. However, the Graveyard Effect negation is still pretty useful, but it's not nearly as useful. Then we're playing the 1 Vermilion Dragon Mech. This seems kind of weird, but here's why this is in here. 1, being able to pop a card is just generally good. It also allows you to use your monsters in order to go into something that is not a dragon or spellcaster, which can help under things like There Can Be Only One. So you can just, like, have a Blue Eyes, have a level 1 spellcaster synchro off into Vermilion Dragon Mech and deal with a floodgate of some kind, which is pretty nice. So there's a few things like that that make it a little bit useful, but mostly it is used as an additional level 9 to go into Baron, so I don't have to waste something like a Spirit Dragon. That's mostly what it's in here for. And then we have Lightstorm, which on special just pops cards, which is pretty nice, and then, or pops spell traps, I should say. And then the 1 ultimate Spirit Dragon. We're also playing Typhon, which is funny. And then we have 3 apiece of the Spirit with Eyes of Blue, which is very useful, and all 3 of them have come up where I've needed all 3, which is pretty nice. We're also playing the 1 Seal. Honestly, I kind of wanted to play the 2nd Seal over something like Tyrant, the 2nd Tyrant Dragon. That would be what I would change. But overall, Seal is still very good, and you realistically only need the 1. And then the 1 SP. SP never actually came up, all things considered, but it's not that it didn't come up, it's that for the most part, it wasn't worth it to make over something like a Typhon or what have you. So, there's that. Anyway, let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performed. Alright, so here we are going first. And we have a fairly good hand here. We drew both the Primite and the Blue Eyes half of our engine, which is fairly solid. So we're going to start off here with the Lordly Load, which will promptly be Ash. And I'm like, that's A-okay. I like getting the Ash out of the way. That's very nice. Coolio. We're just going to then immediately normal summon the Ether Barrel to set the Drill Beam anyway, and then link off into your boy, Spirit. Spirit effect is going to activate. We're going to grab up the Mausoleum. We're going to activate the effect of the Mausoleum. We're going to activate the effect of the Mausoleum, sending the Blue Eyes, and then now we go for the Wishes here. Wishes effect is going to grab up Roar as well as Sage, and then we do the extra normal summon into Sage, grabbing Maiden. Maiden effect is going to activate, replacing that card in Grave in order to allow us further use of our extra, or of our True Light. Anyway, we go for the Spirit in order to bring back the Blue Eyes, which then allows us to synchro into Vermilion Dragon Mech here, which then allows us as well to go into Baron, so that we have the extra negate up. Here we can special summon the Blue Eyes, equip it with a Neo, and then we get to also go for our True Light to set Majesty. This is where having the Bingo Machine is pretty nice, because we can still set a True Light and search out the Bingo Machine, which means we still get that additional level 1 tuner, which is pretty solid. Here we then go for the Lordly Load in order to go into Seal. It's a bit greedy, all things considered, because if they had like Nib, they could immediately stop us. But alas, this is probably our best option. In standby phase, I should have done this in draw phase, but in standby phase, we're going to reborn our Blue Eyes, and now we have the Drill Beam as well. My opponent is going to go for the Allure here, which we will promptly Ash. Then they will go for the Droplet, which I'm like, I would rather have my cards. So I'm going to activate the Majesty here, because they didn't send a trap. Not going to pop a card, doesn't matter. We're activating the Drill Beam here in actuality. So, yeah, we couldn't respond with the spell, but we can respond with the trap. They activate, or, yeah, they normal summon the Dormouse here, we bounce it, and then they activate the March Hare, which I imagined that they had, and we just negate it with the Baron. And that's the game. Good game. Also, Droplet? Alright, so here we are going first, and it's an okay hand, all things considered. Okay, now it's a significantly worse hand because, yeah, that's the one card we don't want them to get, and they got it, so Purge kind of doesn't do anything here. I don't know, maybe we can do something here, but, yeah, I guess I am going to negate the Golem here so that it doesn't hit the field and give them access to Silhouette, so I don't really want that to happen, so there's that. Anyway, they're gonna go for it, the Ankh here, revealing a whole bunch of cards, and, they didn't end up drawing any of their pieces of Exodia, because of course they did. Okay, that set card is basically the only card that matters at this point, because we can very easily interact with these other two. I'm lying to you, everything here hurts, it's really sad. And Azuroon is also kind of a problem. However, we do have Drill Beam, which is fairly decent here. We're going to go Bingo Machine Go. We're going to reveal all 3 of our wishes, so of course we're going to add the wishes. This is one of the things that makes Bingo Machine as useful as it is. We're going to go for the wishes here. They're going to attempt to negate. I'm going to go for the Drill Beam. They're actually going to activate a very funny card here, which does not work the way that they think it does, which is Lancia. While yes, they do get to keep the guy on their side of the field, it is, in fact, still negated. So, there's that. Because of the way that Drill Beam is worded, it negates the effects and then banishes it, so we still negate the effects. But that means we still get the search, which is very, very useful. Because now we're going to go for the Lordly Load. I think I probably should have normal summoned the Sage, but I elected to do this instead. I think normal summon Sage may have been a little bit better, because Valor is extremely powerful against this guy in particular. You can just Valor him over and over and he doesn't do anything, which is very useful. So, I think I should have done that, all things considered. But this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to reset the Drill Beam, which is why we pitched it off of the wishes. Anyway, they're going to negate the spirit. That's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna go Maiden here. I don't know exactly what I'm like, most of the time, if I'm activating something, I'm trying to bait out my opponent's interaction here with the board wipe. So that's more or less what I'm doing here. I'm like setting Majesty, and I'm like, okay, do you have a thing here? Do you have a thing here? Are you gonna do a thing here? So I go for the Lordly Load here, and they bite! Fantastic. This was not a good Lordly Load, I will admit, but they bite, which is important, because guess what? We still have Roar. So the True Light's going to activate, and then we just go Roar, and we get to special summon out the Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes is then also going to trigger the Maiden Engrave, and we get to special summon the Maiden. Of course, they get to send away off of the cart. That's okay, because we can still go into Spirit. Spirit then activates its effect in order to grab up the field spell, and I'm like, okay, we do have something here. We're going to then dump in order to then normal summon our Sage, and I go, okay. Wait, I made a mistake. Mausoleum. I should have sent it with Tyrant Dragon. You know, I equip, I can go into Tyrant Dragon. Tyrant Dragon's really good here, except for the fact that in order to equip, I have to banish, and I forgot that I was under Lancia. It's fine. We grab the effect failure. I attempt to go and special summon here so that I can go into Tyrant Dragon, but I can't because of Lancia, but that's fine. We'll just walk over, deal 3k, and then link off, or synchro off into Spirit Dragon. This may seem kind of like a strange Spirit Dragon, but, I mean, what else am I going to go into? Like, I guess I could go Seal here, which is, like, okay, but Spirit Dragon in particular I think is a little bit better, so that's what we go for. Anyway, my opponent is going to attempt to special summon, and of course they drew Ankh. So there you go. And then out comes Super Poly. I'm like, oh. Yeah, not a whole lot I can do about that. But that's fine, because we have follow-up Engrave. It may not seem like it, but we do. They're going to attempt to go to combat. We are just going to negate the Unstoppable Exodia, which is going to do absolutely nothing. And we're kind of okay. It's just a Spell Trap negate, and we have a fairly decent draw. Doesn't matter. We're grabbing up this guy in particular. So we're going to immediately normal summon the Primite here, which will then allow us to activate the Drill Beam, which is promptly negated, which is fine. We're just going to go for the Lordly Load here in order to grab up another Drill Beam, or another barrel, which then grabs us the Spirit with Eyes of Blue, and that is our third Spirit, by the way. Allows us to go into the Blue Eyes, which then allows us to go into the Tyrant Dragon, which is very nice. So we get to go to the Tyrant Dragon, walk over the guy, and they're very low on life points as well, which is very important, and we set the True Light. I realize here that, like, setting True Light kind of sucks, but there's not really a better option, like, yeah. Anyway, we synchro into the Spirit Dragon, I Reborn, and then I go into Typhon. Typhon here is kind of okay, because if they were to, like, go combat to walk over something, which they wouldn't even be able to do, arguably it's okay. Realistically, I just shouldn't have made this guy. I don't know why I did, but I did. There he is. I don't know, he's there. This was just kind of a thing that I could do. But yeah, for the most part, it's not going to do anything because they're just going to nuke the field. I'm going to elect to special summon here, and of course they draw Maxi, which is basically just bottom greed here, because of course I'm going into the Spirit, the ultimate Spirit Dragon, to reborn a guy. We reborn Tyrant here, and I go, cool, out my Tyrant Dragon. That's it. You gotta out my Tyrant Dragon. Let's see what they do. So they go Planet Pathfinder, which they're playing for some reason, to grab up the Wedju Temple. Wedju Temple is going to activate its effect, placing two guys, and they go into the Doomed Dragon, which they're playing, which attempts to put the Tyrant Dragon back into the back row, except for the fact that Neo Ultimate Blue Eyes Dragon, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, some of these names are very hard for me to say, prevents targeting, so negates and destroys, and at this point, the game is over. Yeah, Blue Eyes is kind of, it's still got it against a lot of other decks, but let's see how it does against Maliss one more time. Alright, here we are going second against Maliss. Let's see what we can do. Obviously, I know it's Maliss now, but they're not exactly hiding it. They go Cross Out on the Fua Loss, and I go Lancia to negate that, so that they are locked under Fua Loss, but also they don't play the game. And that is a fantastic draw. So we're going to normal summon the Maxi. Yeah, Maxi. Okay, let's see what we can do here, giving them the least amount of draws. There is technically a world in which I could, like, OTK them, but it's very unlikely because of the fact that they play, like, 10 bajillion hand traps, and they likely have something like a Bestial or March Hare or something else of that nature. I'm not going to go for the OTK. I'm just going to give them as few draws as I can here. So we're going to go for the Wishes here, pitching the Drill Beam, because Drill Beam can reset itself. And we're going to grab up specifically the Majesty as well as Effect Failure. Now I am going to special summon from deck the Blue Eyes, because I think Seal here, knowing that it's Maliss, because of course it's Maliss, knowing that it's Maliss I think is a bit better. I'm going to go combat just to deal a bit of damage, and then activate the Beam Machine Go in order to potentially draw, or potentially add another card. We had another Wishes, fantastic. And then link off here in order to go into the Seal. At this point, it is basically Seal, Majesty, Drill Beam, and Valor, which is fairly okay, but it could also do nothing. Yeah, okay. We're going to go Seal here. We're just going to bounce the Lordly Load. It's the best option here. So, we're going to do that. Hopefully we didn't need that, but of course they drew the Imperm. Why would they not have? I'm also going to special summon the Blue Eyes here, so that we get 2 pops here off of this, and out comes Triple Attack. They're going to draw 2, and I go, either their hand is really good or it's really bad. One of the two. I'm going to Drill Beam that. That seems like the correct option here. And then, of course, they have an Allure of Darkness. So, yeah, that's kind of tragic. Out comes White Rabbit. White Rabbit effect is going to activate. They're going to set a TB, which is the Reborn, or the special summon from deck. They're then going to activate the effect of their field spell, which notably, I am going to attempt to pop it because it is you can only activate once per turn, which is why I am electing to pop the card. But yeah, I attempt to pop 2 here. Non-target, they go for the MTP to banish in order to search as well. I'm like, sure. That's fine. We at least get to deal with the trap as well, which is pretty nice, so we know that they don't have the special summon from deck. But out comes the Dormouse, and they haven't normal summoned. So, there's that. I do have Valor here, so I'm feeling pretty confident. They activate Foolos, which is a choice. I don't know why they do this, but they do. But that's fine, because we get to go Dormouse here, or we get to negate the Dormouse here, so it's not like they can do much. Unless that's the exact card that they drew. That was the only card that did it there. Nothing else does it there. That's not entirely true, right? I believe March Hare also does it. But yeah, that's really frustrating. If it wasn't exactly March Hare or Called By, they do lose. But now they get full combo because Cybers Monsters. Dear Lanta Cybers Monsters. Anyway, out comes Splash Mage. They're going to activate the effect of the Splash Mage, reborning a guy. They're going to go into the Maliss White Binder, since they've already searched, or since the search target, unless they're playing the Maliss Quick Play, even then, Red Ransom isn't really a good option here. So they go for the White Binder. They're going to banish a bunch of my crap, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. There's nothing I can really do about that. I'm going to keep the True Light hidden for now, just to see if they do anything here. They go for the White Binder. White Binder is going to special summon itself, and then they go into Scriptor? Okay, so here's the thing. If they go Access Code Talker, they destroy my entire field, and I basically don't really have a whole lot that I can do in terms of interaction. So that was probably the better option. However, the biggest mistake that they made was what they set off of White Binder. What they should have set off of White Binder is TB11, because TB11 special summons from deck rather than reborns a guy, and most notably would still allow you to banish the White Binder and use its effect later with GWC. Or they could have also set GWC and then not used it and just linked off into Access Code Talker and used it on a following turn or something else of that nature. There's a bunch of other things that they could have done. This is just a misplay, just like a strong misplay. And the reason for that is because they don't have any banished Maliss monsters. They need a way to banish a guy here to do anything with Heart Scriptor. This card doesn't do anything right now. It's just a dead card. Cool, Link Decoder comes back. Heart Scriptor is going to deal some damage. But what else you got? Anyway, I'm going to go for the True Light during the end phase in order to set the Roar, so that I have Roar, which is pretty good. That being said, I'm going to activate the Lordly Load, which is tragic, because now I can't activate Wishes. Except for the fact that I'm lying to you, I never could activate the Wishes because all of my targets are currently in use. So this Wishes was never going to activate. But that's okay, because we can reborn our guy from grave, and then we just get to go off to the races. Except for, again, I'm lying to you because we can't fuse the turn we activate the Roar. It's fine. We'll just pass. I have Max E, and there's literally like one card they could have potentially drawn there that would have got them into this game, which is March Hare. And even that isn't necessarily all that great. So there's not a whole lot that they can draw there that does a whole lot. Even, I guess technically Dormouse would also do it, right? There's a few things there. But for the most part, they don't really have a whole lot that they can do, especially under a Maxi. And I know that they don't have the ability to interact with the Maxi if they also have a way to combo. So for the most part, I'm not really too concerned there. So good game. I think we both threw there, but good game. And we're back with the deck, and honestly, Blue Eyes is still pretty solid. That being said, I do think that it is significantly weaker against Maliss as of right now. Mostly due to the fact that Maliss also plays a whole bunch of Bestials, which means even if they go second, there's a high chance that they just end your turn due to insane hand traps, and specifically terrible hand traps for you in particular, which is the Bestials. That's still going to be the case, right? And there's nothing really in particular that Blue Eyes does that is good against Maliss. Like, Purge is okay into Maliss, and, like, the Veiler is kind of okay, but it's not exceptional because of the way that the deck works and being able to, like, banish in order to dodge targeting effects and stuff like that. So, there's that. Also, Drill Beam is, like, not great against Maliss, because you banish the monster after negating it, which means that it's not negated when it's banished, so it just comes back, which is not great. So there's that. But it still works, it's still Drill Beam, right? And for the most part, the deck is still extremely powerful. It cleans house against a lot of other decks, especially decks that are, like, not Maliss. It just has a harder time against Maliss than it did against, like, Snake Eyes or something else of that nature, because, well, Spirit Dragon isn't nearly as powerful against Maliss as it was against a bunch of other decks because the Graveyard Negate isn't nearly as good, so you're oftentimes trying to do something else in addition to Spirit Dragon, and a lot of the other stuff that the deck does isn't nearly as powerful, right? Like, Seal is okay, Baron is pretty good, right? But for the most part, those aren't end-all, be-all cards, right? They're not going to immediately stop Maliss. So you still need to see things like Lancia or Maxi or something else of that nature, similar to a lot of other decks. But that's just kind of the nature of Maliss. So for the most part, I still think that this is a well-positioned deck. I think it's very strong. I wouldn't say it's like tier 1 or comparable to that of Maliss, but it is still competitive. I'd put it solidly in tier 2, below Maliss, right? Well below Maliss. But overall, it's still good. It can clown on pretty much everything else as well. So, all in all, there you go. That's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much appreciated. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.